Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome back to episode number 5. That's a whole hand of the Two Films podcast. I'm your host, Jake Metzger, and I just cannot wait for the sequel for There Will Be Blood, where Daniel Plainview's son has to track down 3 hooligan convicts from stealing his precious oil, along with his business partner, played by John Goodman. And my co-host today is a feller who has made the best milkshake. In fact, his oil milkshakes bring out all the psychopathic killers from all around. Ladies and gentlemen, David Reed.
Yo.
How you doing, David?
Pretty good.
What milkshake flavor are we going with today?
Oh, man.
We got
I haven't had a
strawberry.
milkshake in a long time.
Milkshake. We got vanilla.
You know what I had a long time ago that was really weird but not bad? Was a Red Bull milkshake.
Ooh, where'd you get that?
It was at that place in Orland. I don't know what it is now, but...
Oh, it's the ice cream shop or whatever?
It used to be like... It was the pizza place a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
The one that's by grocery outlet.
Oh, okay, yeah. The old ice cream place there.
And it used to be like this, like,
or it was a pizza place, you said?
Well, it was a pizza place a long time ago. And then it was empty for a while. Then it became this like weird, like Western wear shop / restaurant.
Huh.
Which they had some pretty decent sandwiches, I remember. But yeah, and they also had a little, you could buy milkshakes and different flavored milkshakes, and they were one of them was Red Bull. Like, it was like vanilla ice cream, but like they also put Red Bull in it.
Wow, that's kind of yucking your yum, for lack of a better term.
I mean, it's been so long since I've had it, but like,
I could see that being good.
It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
It was kind of good in a weird way.
Maybe throw some chocolate chips in there or something. Make a little extra sweetness.
Yeah, I don't remember what it even tasted like, because I try to imagine what it would taste like, and all I can think of is just like vomit inducing. But I have a distinct memory that I tried one and did not hate it. And it wasn't like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. But like, there were times that I was in the mood for it. So I actually went back at least a couple more times and ordered one again.
That's the thing with like local shops and local like restaurants, is some of them don't last forever, especially nowadays. So go and take advantage of that menu while you can. I mean, there's been plenty of business, and I worked at one of them that is no longer around anymore. And God dang, David, that Harvester burger, man, at the restaurant I used to work at. Oh my God. Like, take all the other burgers and throw them aside, because the Harvester burger with the onions and barbecue sauce and the Harvester sauce and that bruschetta bun and that giant 3rd-pound patty with that sharp cheddar cheese, man, that make a grown man cry.
That was a good burger.
That was a good-ass burger.
That was a good burger.
Man, and onion rings. Had onion rings on it, too.
Yes.
Oh! Well, anyway, for any and all inquiries, comments, concerns, thoughts, and ideas on what pair of films you would combine for a Two Films episode of Snartfangle, and what other foods you'd like, and also that would clog your arteries, feel free to send them on over to snartfanglepod@gmail.com, or you can just text Jake. All right, David. Well, we've gathered here once again to talk about some more delicious food. I mean, films. And man, speaking of delicious, I tell you what, that burger was one of the best burgers I ever had. And that milkshake that you said was kind of like maybe one of the best milkshakes you ever had, Because you know what we're talking about today, David?
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about 2 of the greatest films ever made. Or 2 2007 award winners. Or 2 films filmed adjacent to each other. I mean, whatever you want to go with. I don't know. I think we know what we're going with.
Or 2
Or
films that represent Matt Walsh's
That's right.
peak of the monoculture.
Or two films that are kind of sorta, but not really westerns. But they
Yeah.
kind of like more modern. No, they're not modern because they're Old Bloods.
They're set in the West,
They're
but
set
they're
in
not.
the West.
But they're not really westerns.
I think No Country for Old Men's pretty close as a western, though.
Maybe.
Which is the first film we're talking about today. So our two films, David, are No Country for Old Men and There Will Be Blood. So, sorry, continue what you were saying.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's like, I guess you could interpret Western elements from them, but I definitely wouldn't call them Westerns.
Two films with Western elements. You got Speed Racer and you got What's Up, Doc? Sure. Yeah, they both have elements of the Western in them.
I mean, Cowboy Bebop was like a Western in space.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, hey, without Cowboy Bebop, we wouldn't have had Mass Effect probably. Without Cowboy Bebop, we wouldn't have had Firefly, David. And then that's the liminal domino is Cowboy Bebop. Firefly, then Mass Effect, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, Firefly, now that was a space Western. That was a space Western.
Straight up.
If there ever was one, that was it. It was Firefly.
And then that bigger domino hit the biggest domino and shattered onto the ground with the live action Cowboy Bebop.
Oh, God.
So I won't forgive them. And I never even seen it. I shouldn't say I never seen it. But when I heard what they did with the Ballad of Fallen Angels, I was like, dude, what the hell?
But yeah, for some context, we've known that we wanted to pair these two films together for a while, but we struggled with what was going to be the element to tie them together, because with two films, there always has to be some element that ties them together. And we struggled with it with all the concepts we were listing. And I think, I jokingly mentioned that we call it two of the greatest films ever made because I had watched a Matt Walsh video where he explained the death of the monoculture. And I guess in his mind, 2007 was kind of where culture peaked. And he brought up these two films as one of his justifications for it. And so, inspired by that, I was like, yeah, we'll just call them two of the greatest films ever made. And I was or like two Matt Walsh's favorite films. But
that'll definitely get attention.
But as we thought about it further, it's like, you know what? These are, in a sense, two of the greatest films ever made. They might not be everyone's cup of tea, but I mean, these definitely, I would call these two very landmark films in the history of cinema, or the history of modern cinema, at the least.
You know what I was just thinking of as you said that? I'm like trying to think of the other two more of the greatest films ever made. I mean, there's a lot out there, but the first movie that came to mind was Field of Dreams, actually. Like, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I would say it's one of the greatest films ever made.
It's been a long time since I've watched it. So I don't know.
That's a good ass movie.
It's Kevin Costner, so I'm disinclined to believe that. But I'm kidding.
Oh, well, also, I would pair that with, say, something like Interstellar, because I think Interstellar is definitely in that bucket of greatest films ever made. And they both have cornfields, so be perfect. Two films with cornfields.
Yeah, now Interstellar,
and
that's
time
a movie.
dilation. They both have cornfields and time dilation.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That should be our next. We should do that in August. Two corn-fed time dilation films.
Maybe we'll work on the name.
We'll work on the name and the connection on that one. But okay, so let's get to it. So the first one we got on the docket, David, is No Country for Old Men. So let's go ahead and give it an intro and talk about the details, the director, writer, all that kind of stuff. And then we'll go into our thoughts of the film and then some trivia as we go through this episode of two films. And again, like David mentioned, two films is a podcast where we take two films, put them together with a coherent theme. And well, these are just two of the greatest films ever made. And they were both in 2007, so take what you will. All right, David, No Country for Old Men. Here's what it's about. Violence and mayhem ensue after a hunter stumbles upon the aftermath of a drug deal gone wrong and over $2 million in cash near the Rio Grande. With the money in hand, he finds himself on the run from a psychopathic serial killer through the desert of Texas. Directed by the Coen brothers, written by the Coen brothers, based on the book by Cormac McCarthy, and starring Tommy Lee Jones, Javier Bardem, Josh Brolin, Woody Harrelson, Kelly MacDonald, Garrett Dillahunt, and Gene Jones. With a budget of $25 million and a box office of a smattering, smuckering $171 million. Runtime of 2 hours and 2 minutes, and released in the year of our Lord 2007, where the culture peaked. David, what are your high-level thoughts of No Country for Old Men?
No Country for Old Men is one of those movies that I was blown away when I first watched it. Like, I was just like, after it got over, I was just like, I remember I just kind of sat there in silence, stunned silence at what I had just seen on the screen. I was like, I was not expecting to see a movie like that ever. And, yeah, it's a great film.
It's a great film. Yeah, you said I think you mentioned it when we were watching it last night, but you've seen it a few times already. And this was my first viewing. And I gotta say, man, that was a dang good movie. That was a really dang good movie. Like, I don't think I was in the right headspace to watch it, but I feel like even afterward, 48 hours after we watched it, it's still a dang good movie. And it did stick with me. And you know what? Not many films do that. I mean, I went to go see, random example, Guy Ritchie's The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. And I love Guy Ritchie. And I do still think about that film today, and I love it. But I have to be reminded about it. But with this one, I don't think I'll have to be reminded about this film. I think it's just, it has a special, I think it was made in an era, I don't want to get too rose-colored tinted glasses, but 2007, it was kind of that era of films where like the superhero monolith that we know today was just barely starting with like Batman Begins in 2006 or 5, I think 05. And then you had 2007 with Transformers, which is not really superhero films, but big blockbuster. And then you get 2008 with Iron Man and The Dark Knight, and then just we're off to the races. And also some great ass films happened during this era too, and this is one of them. And I feel like particularly the way the dialogue is written, which is the Coen brothers like forte, and the way the actors deliver it and fully embody these characters and fully sell the portrayal of them really hits home. And I can say the same thing for There Will Be Blood, and I think that's one reason why these two films really stick out and I think would earn the moniker greatest films ever made. One thing I really liked about this film is the kind of what the film's about, which is, he's not in it that much, but it is Tommy Lee Jones. And you and me were talking about this after we watched it, where he's not in it much, but you get to understand what this is all about. You have the opening narration by him, kind of lays the groundwork for what we're about to see. But it doesn't really fully prepare us for what we see because we're kind of following two different people. But then we're kind of following them as well as Tommy Lee Jones kind of trying to track down what happened with them. And I feel like it's him as this old gruff sheriff, been through the ringer, is going to retire. This is kind of his last case he's on. And that's kind of what the films are about at the end of the day. And I think it's a really special kind of formula.
Yeah, I think the real strength of this film for me is how every part of it seems to embody and contribute to the deeper themes of the film. There's a real strong sort of theme of the darkness and the evil of humanity, of normal folks trying to do the best they can, trapped in this vicious cycle. Um, it touches on the ideas of, like, rose-colored glasses, as you mentioned, looking at the past with a kind of nostalgia, and forgetting that crappy things happened in the past too. And just like every part of the film adds to that, contributes to that in some way. Like there's nothing that feels extraneous. There's nothing that feels like it's in there just because it has to be in there. Or there's nothing in there that's really for spectacle, or for, you know, to like wow the audience on like a technical level or anything like that. It's just every part of the film is completely crafted around pushing the central narrative. And it's done so expertly as well. Every element, the performances, the cinematography, they all kind of weave together into this cohesive whole.
And it does it with barely even any music as well, which I was looking up, and we'll mention the trivia later, but again, I think it's only 16 minutes total of recorded music was released for this film and is in the film itself. And it's very much in the background, and you can barely even say it's like since it's there. I think it's only in a few scenes, dialogue scenes, where you hear the music. And again, I think it's kind of the performances and the writing is what really carries this forward, and where the focal point is on. Even side characters that come in, like Woody Harrelson, they feel so lived in and so well lived in. Like, you can get a really good actor to really embody a character, but to make sure it takes a really great actor to make that character feel lived in and lived in well. And that's what I feel with Josh Brolin and Javier Bardem. Like, they really just embody these characters, especially Javier. Oh my God, this dude is like insane is obviously the first word that comes to mind, and crazy, but like the it's weird. It's almost like I would compare him to, say, like Michael Myers. Like, this guy doesn't stop. You can't stop him, no matter what you do. But he's portrayed in such a grounded way, in a story that's very grounded in a real, like, in the real world, where this is basically like, a version of a serial killer.
Yeah, and this is kind of interesting too, is like, yeah, he's got this sort of mythical quality,
Yeah.
like a horror movie serial killer, but he's not a horror movie serial killer.
No.
He's a he's a contract killer sent on a job, sent to do a job.
Mm.
So the whole structure of the movie has nothing to do with a slasher flick. And yet, at the same time, it's kind of interesting how the kind of dread that Javier Bardem's character evokes is very similar to a kind of like Jason or Michael Myers type horror movie serial killer.
Yeah, especially in the scene where he's trying to get into the pharmacy, and he's planning the rag and the car. Which, by the way, it wasn't until that point in the movie, like what is halfway over, or over halfway, where it came to my mind, oh, this isn't set in modern day. I should have recognized it with all these cars, but this is like set in the 80s or something, and it was in 1980. So, but yeah, that scene comes to mind, especially one of the ending, not ending scenes, but ending scenes toward the end, where Tommy Lee Jones is opening the door, but then you see a shot of Javier Bardem hiding behind a door of some kind, and so menacing, and so like whenever you see that bull-headed psychopath, like, oh man, This like just the sense of dread just it comes it comes into the room, you know.
Yeah, and it's like every element of his character like reinforces that this man has no backstory, no real connection to the world. He's almost mythical
Yeah.
because like his name, his character name, Anton Chigurh, like is not like you could say it and you could pass it off as a name, but when you think about it, there's nobody you know named anything like that. There's nobody you know named Anton Chigurh. And his accent is like he's got like you can kind of hear a little bit of like a Hispanic sort of influence to his accent, but it's it's not anything like any kind of like real person from a real Spanish speaking country would sound like. It's something entirely unique.
Mm.
And the haircut too.
Oh my God.
Like it just
Who do you know who has a haircut like that? Except
like
for some very mismanaged, 5-year-olds.
like it like it's just like it makes he just seems like almost not even a real person.
Yeah. And the pasty white skin as well. He's just unsettling. Even the way he walks. Like he's almost like the Terminator. Like he's almost robotic in that nature. And he doesn't care, he doesn't give emotion, he truly doesn't give a hoot about anybody,
Yeah,
which
and
makes him just even more mysterious and psychopathic in nature.
yeah, and it's
Obviously.
strange too that he's like cuz he's a contract killer. He's been sent by um by somebody. We're not entirely sure who, because it seems like he kills a lot of people that he deals with. But he's sent by someone to do a job, but at the same time, like it's almost like he's got certain rules that he abides by that are more important than the job he's doing.
Yeah, and I love how it's a mystery. We don't know, and we don't need to know what those rules are, but we get a sense of what they are as we watch the film, as it progresses. And I love how, especially speaking of mystery, like this film is left to the imagination, like especially in the end or toward the ending as well. Like the whole thing at the hotel. And I'm not going to spoil it here, but the thing at the hotel that happens, we don't see what happens, but we can get a pretty good guess as to what happened and the result of certain characters and the life and death of certain characters. And as well as the whole thing about him murdering the person at the end in the house. Did he really do it? How did he do it? And we only get one physical movement from him that kind of shows that, yes, we know he did what he did, which is him checking his shoes. Just such, oh man, that shot of him coming out of the house after we get the dialogue scene. And all he does, he stops, he calmly looks around, and then he kind of thinks about it. Oh, hey. And he checks his shoes. And I love that scene. I love it so much. Like, it just shows us everything we need to know without telling us anything of what happened. But we know what happened in our minds. And that's the more haunting thing. And that's what I think a lot of good horror films do in general, or thrillers or whatever, or what have you, is it's left to the imagination. So good. So, also, like, we don't get explained what happens to him, Josh Brolin even though we can have a really good guess as to what happened. We're never fully, like, communicated what happened to, like, Josh Brolin's character or Javier Bardem or even Tommy Lee Jones. We can take a guess, but it's left in this kind of, well, that's kind of what happens in this world is evil people do what they do. Some good people are involved, or some people try to get away with some things. And then kind of it's forgotten about. Like the serial killer that was never caught, or cases that were open for 20 plus years that never resolved, or evidence that was never completed, investigations that were never fully closed. It's the real world. And I think that's what I really liked best about the latter half of this film. But going toward the beginning, No Country for Old Men, David, what did you think about just like the acting in general, Tommy Lee Jones's character, how we're kind of not really spend a lot of time with him, even though he's technically the main character, and also Josh Brolin, like all those three trifecta right there. How did you feel about the performances, the story progression, that kind of thing?
I mean, yeah, when I first saw the movie, it kind of shocked me. Um, what happened? I was like, wait, what's going on here? But yeah, I think it's very smart how um how the movie treats its characters. Um, like all three of them do a great job in terms of their acting, in terms of what the lines that are written for them. Like it's all excellent. Like, and just the way these characters interact with each other and sort of like ways that it kind of like throws you for a loop, because like this isn't how like characters in a film are really supposed to be portrayed, if you catch my drift.
Yeah.
um
Our hero's our hero, villain's the villain. That's what we've come to know.
yeah, and they're like the heroes and the villains are supposed to all sort of interact in a certain way. There's a certain language that films have that goes so far beyond the dialogue itself, just in the way characters are portrayed and how they interact with each other. And this film doesn't really play by those rules. It subverts them in a way that like throws you for a loop, but it also makes you feel something.
It's kind of putting your what's it called? Subverting expectations, but in a good way,
Yeah.
in a correct way. Like I think that's kind of a lost art, especially nowadays with a lot of big franchises. Like, well, let's subvert expectations for the sake of it. There's no point behind it. There's just kind of shock value. This, it's very calculated, and it kind of, again, it hones into what the Coen brothers do really well, which is write characters that feel real, but also they're unnatural in nature. They're not your normal Joe. Because I've seen Fargo, and I think Angie had me watch that. She watched that with me, and I really liked it. I think it's kind of, I'm not hot on it, like super like jazzed about the film, but it's a good film, and I'd recommend you watch Fargo as well as Where Brother Art Thou. But each of those films are filled with characters and people like in Fargo, you can tell that the Coen brothers really hung out with a lot of Minnesotans growing up, or what have you, like a lot of people that you'd imagine be living out there in the location where they're at in the story. And we're For Brother, or with For Brother Where Art Thou, same thing. South, kind of hick area, all that kind of stuff. And with this, it's kind of like, this is Texas, but this is also like some very unusual characters we're following.
Yeah, it's like the characters they're believable, but they're not realistic.
Yes, that's a great way to put it. So I think
Like,
yeah.
Like the characters draw you into the world, and you experience them in a very natural and uncontrived way, as you would experience interacting with a real person. But then when you analyze their behaviors, their motivations, you come to see that the characters themselves are not very realistic at all. They're very they're very unnatural.
Unnatural, yeah. Well, a good example, I think, is the kind of the deputy character. He's constantly talking to Tommy Lee Jones and asking him questions. And, oh, you don't think about that, Sheriff? Think they'll come out this far, Sheriff? Well, how far do you think they got there, Sheriff? Like, oh, that guy bloated, Sheriff. Well, these guys started fresh, probably last night. How far long do you think they've been dead, Sheriff? Like, it's just, this guy won't shut up. He's asking all these questions, but he's kind of like this, like, not fresh deputy, but he's like very inquisitive of this older sheriff guy, Tommy Lee Jones' character. and he's very quirky in a way. But like
Yeah.
you said, he's what did you say? Unbelievable or
Uh,
believable? No, you said believable, but unnatural,
Unrealistic.
unrealistic. That was it.
Yeah, he's not like a real person,
No.
but he definitely reminds you of
Yeah.
certain people you
Yep.
know.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, he's not just a person. Like he's the like it's every character in this film. They're just so it's like this mythical universe that you've been given a window into, but like the way it fits together, the way it acts is so believable. Your mind just kind of takes it for reality. Yeah, it's very cool sort of tightrope they walk between those two things. Like, yeah, Anton Chigurh is a good example of it because, like, nothing about Javier Bardem's performance um, is going to take you out of the experience. Like, everything he does draws you further into the character, um, helps you to understand what you need to understand about him more and more.
Mm.
And yet at the same time, Anton Chigurh is almost like this mythical sort of, he's like a ghost or a phantom.
Hmm.
Like he's not even real.
And we get a good look of how he processes and thinks through things just by him doing things. Like when he's going to the hotel, or the motel, I should say, and he checks into the room, but then he grabs his stuff, and we see the shot of him in his socks walking down the way to the next room with his, equipment. And that tells us a lot about, okay, what he's about to do, the method he's doing it by, and his goal. And then he busts open the motel door, and it's not what we expected. Our expectations were subverted successfully, and it's a very tense game of cat and mouse in this whole scene, and especially by him. Speaking of him doing things, we especially get that when he's kind of bandaging himself up in his hotel room later on in the film. And just like you mentioned it when we were watching it, like the pain you see go through his eyes and his body and his just the feeling you see on his face. The pain he's really Javier Bardem is just amazing. He is selling it so well in that scene and still embodying that character really well. And I think it's also interesting because when actors get into a very vulnerable place like that, like, speaking of vulnerable, in the scene, he's like half naked in a towel. He's, you know, experiencing this intense level of pain in his leg from being shot at. Like, like the actor not only is kind of naked, physically, but he's also kind of naked almost emotionally in a way where he has to kind of hewn in and perform in a manner that, and who knows how many times he had to do it. And it's still sells it so well. So, and same thing with Josh Brolin in a couple scenes where like the pain you see these guys go through is life threatening, and they somehow come out on the other side at times, or don't, depending on what part you're at.
Yeah. One thing too is all the side characters, man. They're just so quirky and weird.
It's the Coen brothers. That's their signature right there.
Like you got the storekeeper that is just like the moment Javier Bardem like puts him off of his pre-programmed cashier script,
Oh, I don't know.
like he immediately goes to like he's got to close the store.
Yeah.
For no reason.
Yeah.
And then you have like the
Oh, the lady at the trailer park.
yeah.
And like, I can't give you that information, sir. Like and I can't like I'm trying to think of the other characters too, but like they all stand out in their little scene they're given.
Yeah, then you got the three like teenagers, or
Oh yeah,
I don't know if they're teenagers, but they're younger dudes
yeah, the college
at the
age level or whatever. Yeah.
Mexican border.
Yep.
and like, this is like it's just they're trying the leader of the group is trying to make a deal
Deal,
with this
yeah.
guy for his jacket, and then the one the one on the right to the right of him is just like, he says it like 3 or 4 times, like, were you in a car
Yeah, were you
crash?
in a car? He keeps asking that. And he's like, "Are you in a car crash, man?" And then like, "Give me that beer." And he's like, "How much for the beer?" And he's like, and he just, and then we don't see the rest of that scene, but like each of those characters stand out. And in the end, with the two boys, like, "Oh heck, mister, I'll just give you my shirt. You don't have to give me anything for it." And then the other kid's like, "Yeah, we should do that." He's like, "It's my money. It's not, you didn't lose a shirt."
Yeah.
Like it's almost like if each one of these characters is somebody you've probably met in real life, but you've never seen them in these kind of situations with, a psychopathic like contract killer.
Yeah.
So it's like, and that's one thing I honestly didn't catch when watching this film is that Javier Bardem's character, Anton Chigurh, is a contract killer.
Yeah.
He's given a job to get after Josh Brolin by, I'm guessing, the cartel.
Yeah. I mean, that's the assumption.
Yeah,
He because we're sort of introduced to his mission when he meets up with those two Mexican dudes in the middle of the night, and then one of them asks if he's riding bitch.
dude, that caught me so off guard because I know, you know what he means. Riding shotgun. He says, "Riding bitch."
Which is really funny because it's like, that's like it's a common phrase.
Yeah.
It's not like anything that you wouldn't have heard before, but just the way he says
The way
it,
he says it,
it's
dude.
just so like, what?
That's another thing that, and I've mentioned this multiple times on the pod and other shows as well that we've done. But if you're gonna get a curse word, whether it be the F word or BITCH, whatever it may be, make sure it counts. Because if you're given a PG-13 rating and you got one F word, you better use it well. Like you better, like for example, if I had a movie, David, I'd get an Australian character. It doesn't matter what the plot's about, just he's there. And he says, "What the F are you doing?" Like he's just gonna say it. Because an Australian cursing, at least for me as an American, just sounds amazing. I don't know why, I can't explain it. But anyway, speaking of well use, this film, cinematography wise, I didn't know it was Roger Deakins, who I like. He's like a legendary cinematographer. He did the first Dune. He did Blade Runner 2049. He's done several, countless films. He's been in the industry for decades. I didn't know he did this film. And then like to see like some of these shots as the opening monologue from Tommy Lee Jones is happening, I'm like, man, this is really impressive. Like, man, where did they, like a lot of these are like golden hour, that really hard shots to get. Like, what's going on? And then as the film kept going on, I was looking at IMDb and I'm like, oh my God, it's Roger Deakins. And he got nominated for an Academy, for this film. And dude, he didn't, it just boggles my mind. He didn't win. I think he didn't get an Oscar win until like, I want to say 1917 or Dune Part 1 or something like that. Like it was a long, like he's in his 60s now. Like he's old. Like he's
Dang.
getting up in the 70s, I believe, almost. So he's been doing great work for many, many a year. So it's good to see not only his recognition later on, but just to experience some wonderful visuals in this film as well.
Yeah, it's one of those things too that you don't like necessarily expect that this film is just going to be like an absolute masterclass of cinematography, but it really is.
Yeah. And dude, some of the night shots, like, again, I think this is one reason why Matt Walsh says this is like where the culture peaked, which in terms of the lighting, like it actually feels like these characters are in the dark at times and you actually see hard shadows on their faces compared to like a lot of modern films where, oh, it's dark, but there's clear blue light like shining bright on your face because the moon's out, instead of like like this, especially the chase scene at night at the hotel where he's running, he finds the transponder and he expects Anton to come to his room. That whole chase scene. I mean, let's talk about that. That chase scene's awesome. And it feels almost, dare I say, like Heat, if you've ever seen that, David. But it feels almost like Heat in some of the action sequences a little bit.
Hmm.
Like just the chase itself. Like a Michael Mann film almost. Have you ever seen Heat?
Heat. I don't
The De
think I've
Niro, Al
seen.
Pacino, Val Kilmer.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen it.
Oh man, we got now. That's a good movie. That is also another one of the greatest films ever made. That's a good ass movie. But anyway, what did you, like? Is there any other scene kind of like that, or that one specifically that really stands out to you, whether it be action or dialogue?
Um, yeah, I would say that scene definitely stands out to me, and it's like it stands out to me because for for a variety of reasons, but one of the reasons that it stands out to me is like it delivers everything that that it's required to deliver, and it does it without the aid of a score.
Yeah,
Like
like there's no music to heighten what's happening.
like the score, the impact that the musical scores have on films is massive, and a lot of really big powerful scenes or high tension action scenes in movies are as impactful as they are because of the score.
Mm-hmm.
And this delivers on that, not in necessarily the same way. It's not trying to be like a big Hollywood action blockbuster. It's its own kind of thing, but it delivers the high tension um, that you would require from an action scene without the score doing any work. Like just the shots, just the camera on the actors does all that work. It's incredible.
So good. So good. Speaking of so good, let's hop to this scene and then we'll jump into the trivia. And what do you think of the best scene in this film? Undoubtedly, which is toward the end between Tommy Lee and the guy in the cat house. Let's talk about that scene because this is not only the embodiment of what the film's about, but is just amazing. Like the back and forth between them, the reminiscing of the good old days in quotes, where nothing like this really happened back then, right? No, things have always happened like this, even back then. What'd you think of this, David?
Yeah, this is one of the most powerful dialogue scenes in any movie ever, to be honest. Like, and it's crazy too, because like with the action sequence, it does it without the help of the score. Like you're just sitting in a room watching these two old dudes talk about life, and it's so powerful.
And there's nothing like for example, the Carson Wells scene where Anton is interrogating our Carson or Woody Harrelson's character. And you know the end for Woody Harrelson's character is coming. It's just, the bomb is ticking. You know it's going to go off at some point. And that's one aspect of that scene that makes it so good. But also, just those two characters interacting and talking make it really good. But you see that heightened with a little bit of music, but you see it heightened just by the dialogue and the performance of those two older actors in the end there.
Yeah, and it's like there's no stakes. There's no real like sense of like this has to build to anything. It's just two old dudes talking about life and just their performances and just the whole story arc of the film sort of building to this moment just makes it so impactful. Like man, I've seen this movie a few times, but it's been a while since I've seen it. And like I think I teared up a little bit when we watched this scene. Like I felt
Yeah.
a little twinge in my eye. I'm like, oh, okay.
I'm not trying to laugh. I'm thinking back when we watched that and we were both kind of holding our breath. And then it was over and we're like, oh, wow. Just like it's that good of a scene. And Tommy Lee, dude, like I get that he won his best supporting actor for The Fugitive, which we've also covered before with two 1993 thrillers that we've done in the past. But again, this kind of just proves once again why he is as good as he is. And I mean, he ain't no Two-Face from, Batman Returns, or was it Batman Forever? We'll say Forever.
It was one of those.
It was one of those movies. But again, he embodies this character so well. It's crazy that this is a prequel to, The Man of the House. You know what I mean? Oh, I grew up watching that film way too much. I don't know why. It just was on TV all the time. Kind of like this movie. This movie has been in syndication forever, and it's always a dang good watch, I would say. And I don't know about you, David. Let's go ahead and jump into the trivia.
Sounds good.
All right. Now, pre-context, guys. This is IMDb trivia. Sometimes I go through other sources and try to figure out some other tidbits, but this is mostly just IMDb trivia. So take it with a grain of salt. There's a lot of things I see in there for each film where I'm like, yeah, right. You're pulling my leg. This is not real. And then I go on the internet and it's nowhere to be found and it's just BS. This is the stuff that I found somewhat believable, but again, take it with a grain of salt. So here we go. And also, this is some of the stuff is stuff I've heard before. So let's proceed on here. The first one, Javier Bardem has joked that his two most well-known films involve him having the worst haircuts ever, with No Country for Old Men and Along with Skyfall. All right, next one. While on location in Marfa, Texas, the movie There Will Be Blood was shooting nearby. One day, while filming a wide shot of the landscape, directors Joel and Ethan Coen had to halt shooting for the day when a gigantic cloud of dark smoke floated conspicuously into view. Paul Thomas Anderson was testing pyrotechnics of an oil derrick set ablaze on the set of his film. The Coens resumed filming the next day when the smoke finally dissipated. A year and a half later, both films were leading contenders at the Academy Awards, and both were also bankrolled by the same two companies, Paramount Vantage, now defunct, and Miramax, now owned by Vantage's parent studio. I think that's definitely one of the things I've heard before, which these were filming at the same time, near each other.
Yeah.
And they both came out in 2007. I think There Will Be Blood was in December, technically, and then did a full release in January worldwide. But regardless, they're still 2007 films. But it's hilarious that one interfered with the other, and they both were in the Academy Awards, like top contenders that year, especially for actors, directors, etc. All right, next one. Josh Brolin was working on Grindhouse when he became drawn to the role of Moss in this film. He asked Grindhouse director Robert Rodriguez if he could borrow a video camera for his audition tape, and he ended up having his audition elaborately shot with a theatrical camera they were using. Directed by Quentin Tarantino and with Marley Shelton as Carla Jean, when the Coens saw Brolin's tape, their response was that they loved the lighting. That's amazing. I love that so much. You're doing this film with Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino. And Quentin Tarantino shoots your audition tape. God, I wonder if it's out there for viewing somewhere. All right, speaking of Josh Brolin, he broke his shoulder in a motorcycle accident 2 days after getting the part in this film. In an interview with Now magazine, he recalled thinking, effing shit, I really wanted to work with the Coens, as he flew over the car that hit him. His injury, however, turned out to be a non-issue, since his character in the film is shot in the shoulder very early in the movie's timeline. All right, next one. Carson Wells. This is really fascinating, David. Woody Harrelson's character in the film mentions to the man who hires Wells, Stephen Root. Oh, wait, no, this is the wrong one. This is a different one I'm confusing with. This one's kind of interesting, so sorry to get your hopes up. Anyway, Woody Harrelson's character mentions to the man who hires Wells, Stephen Root, that one floor in a building seems to be missing. This may refer to the fact that most buildings do not have a 13th floor, which many consider an unlucky number. Building owners often rename the floor 14 or give the floor some other use and rename it with a letter. The novel implies that the floor in question, the 17th, is not listed in the building's directory for security purposes and is thus missing in quotes. It is possible they use this missing floor to process their drugs or whatnot. So, interesting tidbit there. All right, next one. The same gas station where Javier Bardem's character flips a coin and tells the gas station attendant to call it was the same gas station used in the film Red Dawn. All right. I'm sure that's going to be in one of our greatest films of all time. Speaking of Javier, Mr. Bardem became the first Spanish actor to win Best Actor in a Supporting Role at the, Academy Awards, Screen Actors Guild, BAFTA, Golden Globe, Critics' Choice for his role in the film. All right, next one, number 8. In an interview, Josh Brolin states he fought the directors for the right to include some dialogue in this is really funny, some dialogue in the scene where he opens the briefcase for the first time to find the money. The directors initially had Moss appear silent, close the case, and leave. After being unable to find a suitable exclamation, they finally agreed to have Moss simply say, huh, which they ended up recording several different ways. Brolin stated that at every screening of the film, you could always tell where the director was because he would burst out in laughing whenever the scene appeared with Moss's "huh." Oh, that's awesome. All right, next one. The credited editor for this film, Roderick Jaynes, is a pseudonym for Joel Cohen and Ethan Cohen, who have co-edited, co-direct, and co-written all of their films since Blood Simple in 1984. New York Magazine reported that they devised the pseudonym when guild membership rules would not allow two co-credited editors on the same film. Jaynes was nominated for Oscar, Jaynes also being the Coen brothers, was nominated for an Oscar for editing Fargo in 96 and this movie, but he has never won one. Joel Cohen told New York Magazine that if Jaynes had won the Oscar, the Academy would have required the award presenter to accept the award on his, quotes, behalf, since they have not allowed proxies or third parties to accept Oscars ever since Marlon Brando and Sachin Littlefeather. Oh man, that is a nightmare video to watch. Just as a side tangent, if you want to see the most awkward thing in your life, go back to, Marlon Brando winning an Oscar and the Sachin Littlefeather chick presenting it and accepting it for him. It is the most awkward, weird, and strange thing I've ever seen on live television. It's just her grandstanding politically for Indians, which I don't really have an issue with, but it's just the way they do it is weird. And the fact that Marlon Brando takes this moment of him winning an Oscar to grandstand and do a political motivated activism kind of thing is really weird.
Yeah, it's funny how that moment created a rule to basically make sure that didn't happen again, and now that's kind of just the norm.
Yeah, I mean, what did Al Pacino say when Oppenheimer won in the Academy? He's like, "What do my eyes see? My eyes say Oppenheimer." And then everybody's like, "Wait, what?" And then it was like, "Oh, they won. Okay." He said it in such a way where the audience didn't catch what was happening. My eyes see Oppenheimer, and then oh shoot, it's Oppenheimer, and then everybody gets up and claps or whatever.
Oh my God.
Just live TV awkward moments, and Al Pacino is great at making it awkward. All right, number 10, the character Anton, how do you pronounce this last name? Chigurh was voted the most realistic psychopath in cinema history by a team of forensic psychiatrists led by Dr. Samuel Leistetz. The team spent watching over 400 films to diagnose the top psychopath. Sounds like a TV episode of, some kind of show. According to Leitstedt, Chigurh is a merciless killer who feels absolutely no remorse for blowing his victims apart with a shotgun. He's very determined, has no empathy for his victims, and is incapable of emotions like love or shame. Totally agree. I think it's interesting that psychiatrists specifically rate him as the most accurate depiction of a psychopath. Super interesting. All right, next. The silver suppressor on the Remington Model 1187 semi-automatic shotgun with the short barrel was specially made for the scenes. Such a device did not exist, and I promise you, not in 1980, where this film is set. So the Coens had one invented for a serial killer who ironically uses other unique weaponry methods, such as a captive bolt stunner, also the thing they use to kill cows. Speaking of that, a nail gun was used for the sound effect of Shigura's cattle gun, which, come to think of it, yes, that certainly sounded like a nail gun. All right, last couple here. In 2024, this film was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. Amen, brother. America and American media being locked away in the American library. Get your American ass government library card and let's go watch this. All right, last one, guys. In the novel, Sheriff Bell says of the dope dealers, here a while back in San Antonio, they shot and killed a federal judge. Cormac McCarthy set the story in 1980. On May 29th, 1979, this is the crazy one I was talking about earlier, Judge John Howland Wood, a federal judge in the United States District Court for the Western District of Texas, was shot and killed in San Antonio by Texas freelance contract killer Charles Harrelson, father of Woody Harrelson.
I saw that when I was
Is that real, David?
looking at the doc, and I was like, I saw that, I was like, that can't be real. And I forgot to look it up, so I still don't know if it's real.
Dude, this is only part of it too. It goes into detail, like when he went to jail, when he got out of jail and murdered that judge, and then got 2 life sentences in prison, and then how his wife also went to prison. It's like, is this just made up, or is this too good to make up? Because there's a lot of detail in that like little tidbit.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, like Woody Harrelson comes from a contract killer. Like, no wonder he's kind of weird, but man, is he a good actor. Good artist. All right, David. Well, that's all the trivia I got for you. What are some final thoughts on, let's see, one of the greatest films ever made? I do have some squabbles I do want to bring up, but I want to know what you think.
Yeah, I would say that overall this is just a very powerful film, and it's powerful while not relying on the normal conventions of that filmmakers use to make their audience feel what they're supposed to feel when they watch the film. This definitely makes you feel things, but does it in an entirely unconventional way, which, like, you talk about subverting expectations for the sake of it. Like, I can think of a few films, Last Jedi being one,
That's a popular example.
that do that. But this is so cool because it subverts your expectations, which sort of leaves you vulnerable to whatever the film is trying to deliver to you. And so it subverts your expectations to kind of, so you let your guard down, and then it just delivers these powerful scenes in very unconventional ways that just hit you in the feels.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I feel like some of the subverting expectations, I feel like at first watching the first viewing, there's some parts I was very confused at. Specifically, and this is the one squabble I have with the film, is the whole motel scene early on when, Anton is tracking down the briefcase and Josh Brolin's character has it. And Josh Brolin hides us in the vent, and then he goes and gets a different room. And I think I just wasn't paying attention, but I just wasn't understanding what was happening. And then that room at that point was rented out from a crew of Mexican drug guys. And then something's going on, and it's
Well, the room wasn't
know.
rented out by Mexicans. They just showed up.
oh,
They
okay.
just showed up because later on that's actually explained.
Oh, okay. I
Um
just wasn't paying attention, I guess.
uh Anton Chigurh, I can't remember who he talks to.
Oh yeah.
Oh, he talks to the weird dude whose name I don't know, but I recognize him whenever I see him. He talks to him, and he
Talking about Woody Harrelson?
no, the
Oh, and the Office.
yeah.
Yeah, after he kills Stephen Root's character.
Yes. So
okay.
he's talking to Stephen Root's character, and he mentions that he's upset that they gave the transponder signal to to the Mexicans as well.
Mm.
Like Anton Chigurh was under the impression that he was the only one who got the transponder signal,
Okay.
and so that he would be the only one to track the money down. And then he shows up in that room, and there's some cartel guys there, and he kills them.
Yeah.
And so he's like, so basically, yeah, he kills Stephen Root's character for giving the cartel the transponder signal as well.
I feel like if I watched it one more time, I would get way more that was happening. But that whole thing about, Moss hiding the briefcase, then getting a room adjacent to where he hid the briefcase.
Well, no, he didn't.
Well, that's what I'm confused by.
No, he didn't. That's the thing, is he tried, the chick at the hotel tried to get him to get a room next to his. She's like, she's like, well, what room do you want? After, she's finally gets over the confusion of him buying a second room when he already has one. And she's like, well, what room do you want? He says, well, 38 sounds good. He's looking at the little paper. And then she's like, I can't remember if she says 137 or 138, whichever number she says. She's like, oh, well, this one is open, and it's right next to the one you already have. So why not that one? And he's like, no. 38 will do. And she's like visibly put out by that. But then she's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, I guess I'm just not very smart, or I wasn't paying attention or something, because I just couldn't understand what was going on in that scene and why he hid it in the first room, but then went to a second room. I guess he was waiting to see if Anton was, or somebody was following him. And so they would go to that first room, but he could still access the briefcase from the other room. Is that?
Yeah, I think what he was trying to do is basically be able to keep an eye on the people that were tailing him, without, making himself vulnerable,
Yeah.
Like he wanted to appear to be in that room, but he still wanted to hide out in the motel so he could watch them to see what they were going to do.
Okay.
Is my understanding of it. And I think that scene is supposed to be a little disorienting, a little confusing, because you're just like in the moment. Like that's the thing about this film, is like everything that happens is just it just happens in the moment.
Yeah. There's no like flashbacks or anything. There's just, this is where we're at right now.
Yeah. And it's just like, it's a lot of the stuff that happens.
Very sequential.
You're just kind of like, it's just kind of bewildering. And you're like, what's going on? But like the exact story beats are less important, I think, than the overall theme of the film. And so it's doing what it can to keep you on your toes, because ultimately I think, like, you don't have to understand every element that happened in the story to get what this film's about, because it's about more than just a contract killer tailing a dude who found some money, you know?
Yeah, definitely. That's just the one part of the film I was like, huh? What? What's happening? Huh? And then like this whole like philosophical thing that the film's about, I'm like, oh yeah, I get that. So I shall get that. Just that one part I was like caught up on. But anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
highly like if you're an adult and you haven't seen this movie, go watch it. And then grab your 16-year-old son and make him watch it too, because it's that good.
Yeah,
He's ready for it. Dad, listen, he's ready for it.
Yeah, one more thing I will say about this film is, and it also applies to the other one too, but I think this one kind of comes across in a more powerful way, is I really appreciate how the central theme of this film is just utterly rejects the kind of secular humanist sort of everyone's basically good
Yeah.
kind of thinking.
Mm.
Like, because we as Christians know that that's not the case, that because of sin, humanity is fallen and evil, and we all, whether we're serial killers or not,
Are you a serial killer, David? Is that what you're saying?
Carry that same evil within us to some in some capacity. So it's just like this film does a really good job of just like laying it out there, like the world's a dark place,
Mm-hmm.
and it lays it out. And the other one is kind of about that too, but this one like lays it out in such a powerful way. It just hits you,
and it communicates it in a way that if you're paying attention, you will understand. Unfortunately for me, I couldn't understand the briefcase scene, but I got the main thing. I think I got the main message of the film. And you know I joked about grab your 16-year-old son and sit him down and watch this film. Honestly, like if my kid wanted to watch this and he's like 16 or whatever, like say 15 or 16, like, and of course, you know, there's other factors like his mother and, you know, something like that. But just like stuff like Braveheart or Passion of the Christ or films like that, I think this is going to be in that kind of docket. This film's thrown in with those ones and be like, I want to sit you down and watch this, and I want to know what you took away from this. Because I think that would be a really cool conversation to have with your kid and to kind of say exactly, to get across to them exactly what you were saying, David.
Yeah. Another thing I will say about this film that I just thought of, it was really funny, was
Bowl cuts.
the whole, you remember when we watched the rom-com episode?
Oh, the Meg Ryan one?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
episode 2.
It was there was that scene in I think it was Sleepless in Seattle, where it was like the people like, you know, they were like doing like a double dinner date, and they were talking about like the women were describing this film that like made them cry.
Oh.
And then the guys are all like, that's dumb.
That's dumb.
And then they started describing this other film and they started bawling just describing it. Like, I don't know why, but like, no, I do know why. But like, I kind of had like a similar experience watching this again for the like, you know, for the first time in a while. Because like you mentioned that your mom, like, you like had told your mom is like,
we were doing this.
Yeah, we're gonna do 2 of the greatest films ever made.
And then she's like, what are those films? And I said, yeah, There Will Be Blood and No Country for Old Men. She's like, oh God, if you're a guy.
Yeah, if you're a guy. And then I'm watching this film and it gets to the scene and I'm like, oh my God, is like, what's going on with my? I'm a little like I'm on the verge of. I'm almost on the verge of tearing up a little bit here.
So true. So yeah, exactly. Put this film with Braveheart and all those other stuff, and it is well deserved too. This film, what a picture. All right, speaking of what a picture, David, let's get to our second and final film here, and that is There Will Be Blood. And here's what it's about. In a battle between religion and business. I can't believe I wrote that. Sorry, I just... Sorry, you thinking of we're still caught on that one thing of you saying about my mom. It's so true. And the scene in Sleepless in Seattle is so awesome. Like just Tom Hanks and this other dude just bawling their eyes out. There's a dog or something like that. Or this anyway. Oh, okay. Oh, I can do this. There will be blood in a in a battle between business and religion. We are told a tale of hatred, misery, neglect, and bad religion. As successful oil man Daniel Plainview, Daniel Day-Lewis, and Eli Sunday, Paul Dano, vie for power and riches and influence in a newly booming oil town. Directed by Paul Thomas Anderson and written by Paul Thomas Anderson, based on the book by Upton Sinclair, totally a real name. Starring Daniel Day-Lewis, Paul Dano, Kyron Hines, and Kevin J. O'Connor. Benny from The Mummy. With a budget of $25 million, box office of $76 million, and a runtime of roughly 2 hours and 38 minutes. Released in the year of our Lord 2007 when cinema peaked, according to Matt Walsh. David, what are your high, low, middle? What are your thoughts on There Will Be Blood?
Again, like, this is, I think, like a landmark film, but in a different sort of way.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those, like, I kind of have to be in the mood to watch. It's not as sort of universally applicable, I think, but like, it does such a good job of like bringing together like the primal darkness inherent to fallen humanity, but also like just sort of giving us this picture of the forces that shaped our nation.
I was just agreeing with you.
I thought you were gonna say something.
No, I was just like, yes, yeah.
But yeah, it's such a good movie. In like, it's not really like a historical drama necessarily. It feels like a window into a different era.
That, man, I'm so glad you said that. That's exactly what I wrote down in my notes, in the sense of like, I feel like because of the level of acting we're seeing on screen, mostly from Daniel, but absolutely from Paul as well, and other characters, but mostly those main two, it feels like you're getting a look of these insatiable people that might have existed, and you believe they existed. And it's just the portrayal of these characters. I would agree, No Country for Old Men has amazing and wonderful acting, but this one's on a different level and in a different way specifically, because so much weight is put on just two, mostly one, but mainly two people in this film. And it flippin' delivers, man. Just from the accent of Daniel Day-Lewis, from the physicality and the mannerisms of Paul Dano, the battle between these two people for control, basically, whether it be control over family, land, sheep, the herd, the people, what have you. You really put it well, David, when you said this is like a representation of the struggle between the powers that helped shape this country: religion and business, basically. And like how it can go to your head and your whole personality is taken over by this mission of investing and taking over what you can have in your hands, whether it be with money and power. But you could also get that power not through just money, but through manipulation and people's dedication to their belief. And man, it's so interesting to see it in this film. And that's not something I was not expecting. I thought, I'm like, oh, it's about an oil man and his son can't hear, and there's this creepy past preacher guy. That's all I really knew about the film. But then experiencing these elements and what happens with them, it's truly something to behold. And also, was it just me? It didn't feel like 2 hours and 40 minutes. Like it felt more like maybe 220, 210.
Yeah.
Like surprisingly, like I thought this movie was going to drag.
Yeah,
But it did
definitely.
not.
Definitely a well-paced film.
Yeah, that's something I didn't bring up with No Country for Old Men. Also very well paced. But yeah, I don't know where to really go from here. I guess we can just start with Daniel,
Yeah.
Mr. Plainview.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was funny when we were gonna watch this. I think I got home from something. Oh, from work, and I said, "All right, David, give me a minute. I'm gonna give you like 20 minutes. I'm gonna get my stuff together, clean up, and I'll be ready to watch it." And as I was taking a shower, I'm like, man, I could just imagine David would be out there like, man, what the hell is that guy? Like I could picture you knocking on my door, and you didn't do this, but like in your Jimmy Stewart voice, like, come on, like dun dun dun, get out here, Jake, come on, get the out here, Jake. Just, I gotta watch. I'm waiting your ass all day. We gotta watch this movie, this masterpiece on mankind. Like just
For the record, I did not do
yeah,
that.
the director David did not do that.
I
That
don't
was just
think
a picture I had in my mind.
I don't think I've ever done that.
Get off. Potter. Anyway, speaking of Potter and capitalism, let's talk about Daniel Day-Lewis's character.
Yes, indeed.
Like just like Potter and just like Potter and It's a Wonderful Life and the American story. This tells the American story of what if Potter was successful and he got everything he wanted in life. But I like how this film opens where we see the amount of effort and work he goes to get his riches, where he literally falls down the mine shaft. And I'm so surprised, like it's just his leg that was broken or what have you, or what was communicated to us. But the interesting part of that scene, this opening of this film, is he's laying, around thousands upon thousands of dollars worth of silver just under his body and surrounding him. And it was an interesting, like, I guess you can pull an allegory, from that. Like, he kind of fell down into his riches, but at what cost?
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of like a theme in this film with his son as we go through it. But what did you think about kind of the beginnings of Daniel Plainview's character and where it went from there, from the oil rig to the son, death, that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's just like he takes you for such a wild ride, like as a character, like just the way he develops through the film. You're just like you can kind of tell it's coming, but like it doesn't really but it definitely he definitely manages to throw you off kilter in ways you're just like, whoa, what kind of journey is this guy going on? But yeah, so he's like, we don't even really know his backstory necessarily. We just like, he's mining for silver, and then all of a sudden he, falls down a hole and has to crawl out of it with a broken leg. And through sheer determination, he drags himself out of that hole and then sells what silver he's managed to procure to buy his oil rig. And I think too, it's kind of like this. It seems to me it's almost like a commentary on the concept of the self-made man, of a person who has gotten to where they are, to where they're at entirely on their own efforts. And you see that there's a cost to living that way, both physically, and there's a cost to the soul. And you see that in both facets of his character, because he's like, by the end of the film, he's like almost, he's basically lame by the end of the film. Like he can barely walk.
Yeah.
That,
and he has nobody.
That initial broken leg has been has it seems like it's never properly healed, and he's just like he's reduced to hobbling around in his mansion with no one to help him. But then there's also the element where it's cost him his soul. He's not even like a human being at the end of the movie.
Yeah, it's so interesting how his character is that consistent, and Daniel Day-Lewis is so dedicated to this role that it's just like it's so because there's certain films you'll watch and you see good actors, you see bad actors, but you also see actors that are so dedicated to a role that there's this consistency throughout the entire runtime. And regardless of if this was shot earlier during the time we were filming or later or in the middle or what have you, there's certain characters that are so consistent. It's almost like they embody that character, almost embody a spirit of some kind. And you get that, I think, with Heath Ledger as the Joker in The Dark Knight, for example. And there's other ones, I'm sure, but that's the first one that comes to my mind. But I feel like Daniel Day-Lewis, he's one of those actors who are method actors that, they take it too far. But my God, even if they take it too far, he really delivers on that promise of embodying this person. And he makes it feel so real.
Yeah, he's so believable in every aspect. Like, even though, like, if you step back to consider it, it's kind of ridiculous in a way because he's a British actor. And then he's a British actor doing this, like, okay,
Did you hear that thumping?
no,
You okay? Pause it. What? You didn't hear that? Dun dun dun. Like behind me?
no.
Dude, it was creepy. Cause I literally heard like in the vent, like an animal like like scratching the vent.
Hmm,
And then now the light just flickered.
interesting.
Well, thank you, Lord, for that he's the king of this household. No weird spirits are going around.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
Well, I mean, that's why I bring up Daniel Day-Lewis, honestly, is because I feel like, yeah, I know, I'm looking around too, like, what the heck? Like, I think some actors, like, embody, or at least not possession, obviously, but borderline. Like, they embody something that gets them to the point where they can be the certain character they want to be. I think you see actors like Tom Hardy has done that in the past. Christian Bale, they're very, very, very dedicated, mind, body, soul, and spirit. Specifically Bale, especially physically with Christian Bale. But they're so dedicated to the role that they're willing to do anything to get to that point. And with Daniel Day-Lewis, the way he walks, hobbles, the way he talks is so interesting. And kind of like Javier Bardem in No Country for Old Men, like the way he talks is so fascinating. And like you said last night when we were watching it, you said, yeah, he was an interview or something, and Daniel Day-Lewis said something about the way he came up with the accent. You'll describe it better than me. What was that?
Um, yeah, there's a little bit more to the story than what I said
Oh,
before.
okay, yeah.
But yeah, basically he kind of like I re-tracked down the interview because I didn't really remember what was said. I just remembered the gist of it. But yeah, he basically kind of like it was like kind of like this thing where he was kind of going all over the place in the interview too, so it was a little hard to follow, but the what I got from it was that he kind of like heard the voice in his head, and so he kind of like basically the process for him was to try to get the accent that was coming out of his mouth to match what he heard in his head, kind of a thing.
Yeah, and it's I don't know. Can't really put a nail down on what kind of accent it is, but with this being in some kind of southern part of the U.S.
It's in
or California.
California.
Sorry, no, yeah, that's right, California.
Yeah, this would have been in, I believe this movie is set in Bakersfield.
Oh, interesting, huh?
So, yeah, which it was shot in Texas
Yeah.
because of the, um, because I think I included this in the trivia, but it was shot in Texas because in the particular town that it was in, because it already had some like abandoned mine shafts that had been dug that were, you know, available for them to use, and just like the setting and the scenery looked right.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, the setting of this movie is supposed to be in Bakersfield, California.
Interesting. Yeah, I've driven down in that area before, and without irrigation, yeah, you could probably. I mean, that's mostly California. Without irrigation, yeah, it's a desert. So that's pretty much what you get with the Golden Hills. You know what I mean? That's why they call it Golden State. But yeah, Danny Day Lewis, like he does something about this. There's something about him in this film that makes it not unsettling, but I don't know what the word is to describe it. Uncanny. Like he feels like a real person from that time, and this character is so fascinating. You're like, huh? Like you get who he is by what he does, and what he desires and that kind of thing. But he's so fascinating to watch,
Yes.
and it's like its own. It makes it very entertaining. Let's get to Paul Dano though, who comes in as Paul Sunday at first. He's one of the brothers of the Sunday family who not scams, but gets some money out of Mr. Plainsview. And then Paul Dano comes in as a different character, Eli Sunday, Paul's brother, who's this preacher feller. What did you think of his performance, David, and how it really rests the entire plot on this feud between Eli and Daniel?
Yeah, Paul Dano is like so good at like just acting like a creep.
He's so good
Like you
at it.
said, like it just like he exudes this like sleaziness, this like disingenuous sort of like fakeness about him. Like it's
This
so,
inauthenticity.
yeah, it's so like you're just so put off by his character. It's one of those like characters you love to hate.
Yep.
And it's like one of those things where it's like when he kind of gets his comeuppance, it's like cathartic,
Yep.
even though the person delivering the justice isn't necessarily in a position to really judge the other.
Yep.
But just because of how creepy and fake and slimy Paul Dano's character is, like you still feel like it still like feels like a cool moment when he finally gets what's coming to him at the end.
Yeah, my first experience with actually it's funny. My first experience with Daniel Day-Lewis was in Lincoln. I watched that years ago, long time ago, probably when it came out in 2012, and I liked it. I thought it was fine. It's been forever since I've seen it, and man, you know what? I speaking of spirits, I wouldn't be surprised if that grave of Abe Lincoln, David, just turned over, and out from the bullet hole of his head came this embodiment of Abe Lincoln that Daniel Day-Lewis embodied. You know what I mean? But joking aside, this is my second viewing of Daniel Day-Lewis in any film. And then this is also the same thing for Paul Dano. I never saw Mrs. Sunshine or whatever, but I did watch The Batman, and he's great. Like, so good as the Riddler. And his character is so interesting. The way Matt Reeves has him play it is so cool and creepy and slimy. And you get that here, but you get the start of all that here. He is he's so creepy in this. And like, him and what's so unsettling about his character, David, is that he's a preacher. And that just makes it all like he could have been the town bum or whatever. Like, oh yeah, that guy's a creep. No, but now with him being a preacher and him in this position and vying for more positions of power and money through manipulation and what have you, makes it all the more weird and creepy and unsettling. It's so good. And the way he performs it is so off-putting and strange. And, like him trying to bless that old lady or heal that old lady is so like you know, it reminds me of old like scammer televangelists, you know what I mean? Like just old scammy preachers from back in the day, and it's he embodies that so well.
Yeah, and you know what's really, really cool about it too is like his performance and the kind of like church that he has is like so reminiscent of basically the restorationist movement that happened in America. Um, the the Mormons being the prime example of that, where just you had all these different groups popping up that were very cult like, that were very uh, had creepy vibes, but they were all sort of like based on this idea that um, the Protestant church in America, the mainline churches in America had lost their way, and that God was going to plant a new church that was going to be the sort of new universal church for the American continent, basically.
Mm.
So
Like
like I
Joseph
said,
Smith and
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. The Mormons are like the number one example of that, but they weren't the only example. Like groups like this were popping up all over the place, all over the country, in this time period. So like you see, um, how Paul Dano's character is and how he runs it, how his character runs the church and what it looks like. It's got all the hallmarks of that, of like a just a weird, of like the kind of weird religious cult that would have popped up in this place at this time.
Yeah, and it's so I kind of really think that the idea of this in any story is really fascinating. Being a Christian and you being a Christian as well, like we know the good side of things, but we also are aware of the bad, like perpetrators, the kind of people who pervert Christianity. And I kind of love stories that involve that kind of aspect because I know the truth. I know what's good and what's bad, but to see it perverted and to see people be the villain in that role is really fascinating to me. And it's also fascinating in the story and There Will Be Blood. And like the whole and I love the fact that these two characters it takes one to know one is what I is what I said to you when we were watching this. It takes a slimy businessman to know another slimy businessman. And that's exactly what this film portrays as Daniel Day-Lewis's Plainview's character is played in Plainview, and then Eli Sunday, played by Paul Dano. Like they are just if they could, they would be at each other's throats. And we see that at some times, especially, at several points in this film. But I love, like, when, like, how slimy and cruel Paul Dano is and how weird he is. And the scene where Plainview takes him and just squishes his face in the mud, I'm like, yeah, get him, just make him pay. Like, this guy is such an a-hole. And he's every little bit of comeuppance he deserves happened to him right now because he needs to go. And after that scene, I think the one flaw, I don't know if necessarily, you gotta help me on this, David. I don't know if this is a flaw, but because of this event with him and Eli Sunday then takes a backseat in the story. We then focus more on the son, the injury that happened to him, what's going on with Daniel Day-Lewis's character and the son, and then Eli, and then his brother as well that comes in and then we kind of take a break from Eli Sunday. And this kind of break in the film reveals more of the character of Plainview. You and me were talking about that last night when we were watching it. And it does explain more of his character, but I just missed, even though I love to hate him, I just missed a little bit of Eli Sunday and that feud between those two. I feel like this film could have been well treated with more of that. with more things involved with them both, whether it be like you could have. I know this was based off a book, so they're following the way of the book. But I feel like if you took this and you replaced the whole brother kind of thing, I mean, you could even involve him in it, but you could take the Union Railroad aspect side plot thing with the brother and have him involved in like more political stuff in the town of what's going on. Because this is a boom, it's in the background, but this is a booming oil town that's happening in the back of our minds as we're watching just the story of these two characters.
Yeah.
I feel like the film kind of missed an opportunity with just more juicy back and forth hatred between this character and that character. But
Well,
it's required, I think, to take a break from this feud so that we can get that redemptive scene in the church later on.
yeah, also too, it's like you get kind of like you have like long sort of stretches where he's not dealing with Eli Sunday. And I think it's important because it like reveals a central sort of aspect of his character that he holds on to things for a long, long time. Especially at the end. Like it's funny that you like saw the end before you saw the whole movie.
Yeah.
And it's like without the context of the movie behind it, like the ending is so bizarre. But like when you have the film building up to it, it's like you see him take out all this rage and aggression that he's just been holding on to for years and years and years and years and years. And it's like his distance from the time he spent like at a long, long distance from Eli Sunday hasn't made him forgive and forget, hasn't made him move on. He's like that bitterness is still as fresh in his heart as it ever was. And so I think part of that, the reason why we had to take a break from their feud is because we had to see that he wasn't gonna just like forgive and forget and move on because they were apart for a while.
I mean, we had to get the line "brother from another mother" in this film, you know? Also the line of "get liquored up and take him to the peach tree dance." You know, we had to get that line delivery from Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah.
And then what's his face? Is it Kevin J. O'Connor? You know, about, "Oh man, I'm a brother from another mother." It's like, okay, this is an interesting thing. Also, the whole thing, you and me were talking about this, but there's the aspect of, you know, the whole thing about the son being deaf. But then when his brother shows up, or supposedly his brother, in quotes, the kid sets fire to the inside of the shack. And at first you're like, what the heck? Why is this kid doing this? Well, we see the kid look through the diary of the brother. Like we see him pick it up. So the kid, even though he's deaf, he can still read, supposedly. He can probably still read. And so he's looking at what's going on in that diary, and whether it is his brother or not, the kid comes to a conclusion and tries to catch that brother on fire and try to get rid of him. And then Daniel Day-Lewis takes that and doesn't understand what his goal was, and then, you know, ships him off to a special school or something like that. So we get that aspect.
Well, I don't know if that, I mean, it could be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was wondering what you thought, because
like I think it could be either that, or it could be like the fact that what is his son's name? HW
I think so.
is acting out because
Well, you can't communicate.
yeah, because Daniel Day-Lewis his character is not equipped to deal with having a deaf son. So like basically, um, so his son is basically just growing up alone and isolated, not understanding anything, um, not having his needs met. So I think in that moment, it's supposed to show him like just lashing out,
Mm.
like he's acting out. Not he's not trying to harm anyone, but he's just doing something dangerous and dumb to
Mm.
sort of get
Yeah.
it to sort of get attention.
Yeah, I could see it like that too, I guess. I just,
Yeah, it could be,
yeah.
but it could also be what you're saying. The film doesn't really make it
Yeah,
clear.
it doesn't make it clear, which I don't think it needed to.
Yeah, it's not really something that's like central importance to the plot. It's just one of those kind of interesting little side things that you can kind of go, I wonder if it's like this because of this or this because of this.
Yeah. And even though I kind of have this somewhat criticism with this middle part of the story with the side plot with the brother, it reveals so much more about Plainview's character. We already knew he was a slimy businessman, but we know exactly the extents he's willing to go. And you described it well about the ending, the bitterness he holds on to. He holds it on to everyone. I mean, the son and the whole thing about that interaction at the end and him going away and, oh, you're my competitor, blah, blah, blah. And the whole thing about the Union Oil guys. Like, this guy just doesn't let things go. And he's willing to murder for it. He's willing to cheat and lie and steal for it and manipulate and all this kind of stuff. And even though he's this despicable, awful person, he's so fascinating to watch. It's kind of like it's dare I say it, kind of like Tony Soprano in The Sopranos. Like, he's not a good guy, but the way he's acted and the way he's portrayed in tender moments at times, at least for Tony Soprano, that is, you love that character so much and you want to see what happens to him and you want what's best for him at times as well. And this, you don't want what's best for Daniel Day-Lewis, but you're just fascinated by the performance.
Yeah, and I think there's to a certain degree, like I think you're able to have some sympathy for him.
Yeah.
Like not a one note character. He's very complex.
Mm.
He goes from being just utterly despicable to having these tender moments with his son to having these moments where like you're kind of rooting for him because he's beating the crap out of Paul Dano's character, kind of a thing. It's like, yeah, he's such a multifaceted character.
Was there anything else you wanted to touch on before we get into the trivia? I think one aspect that is important about this is that, I mean, I'm no fan or not really a well-knowledge person about PTA, Paul Thomas Anderson's filmography or what he's done. But this film was so amazing that, man, what a force to be reckoned with. This guy is, the team he's with, so technically impressive. The whole thing with the oil stuff is so impressive in the sense of like, you get a real sense of the brutality of that time. Yeah, it's more modern era, in quote. We're getting to the millennium, past the 20th century here. We're in it during this film. But you still see what that generation had to go through and the brutality they experienced. And this was before even the World Wars. During the time this film takes place, you have the Spanish-American War happening at some point. Teddy Roosevelt, that kind of stuff. And then this ends, I think, right before World War I or before the Great Depression, or after World War I, but before the Great Depression. So it's really, if you're a fan of American history, it doesn't really put a focus on it, but it's interesting to think what's going on in the background as this film progresses. So there's a lot of background story that you could imagine that's happening, but the main event, the main show are these two characters.
Yeah.
So, but is there anything that you want to touch on before we dive into the trivia specifically?
I want to talk about the music. It's so like off kilter and weird, and I love how it kind of like it's composed in such a way that like it kind of does the opposite of like what I think a conventional film would do with the music in the scenes of this movie. Um, just because like moments that should feel like maybe introspective or grand or moments that should be tender and sweet, like the music kind of swallows all that up into this like sense of foreboding that like even though like there's ups and downs and you're kind of rooting for the characters kind of sort of, but like the music is just telling you that things are not going to end well.
Yeah, there's a point where I kind of complained to you. I'm like, I don't like the way this sounds. This is unsettling. And you're like, that's kind of the point because this is an unsettling thing that's happening to the characters on screen. I just thought it was weird, but whatever.
Yeah, that's the thing is too that one scene too. I think like you were like upset by the
I was
music,
so sad. Like, I don't like this sound. This sounds horrible.
and I think that was the point. I think I think the viewer is supposed to be upset during that scene.
Yeah, it just
Cuz
made me
like
uncomfortable, David.
cuz like even like you mentioned like oh those strings just by themselves could be really foreboding.
Yeah.
But like you know that's been sort of explored so much that like I think it would that scene would feel kind of like a conventional Hollywood sort of action scene
Yeah.
if it was just like more foreboding but more conventional foreboding music.
Yeah, I feel like it's really tempting with the soundtrack. I could see it being tempting with the process of creating the soundtrack to be pretentious in that nature. Not what we got, but the sense of I'm gonna make John Williams and we're gonna get the real emotion out of this film. But this film doesn't need that. It already has plenty of elements that satisfy that feeling or bring that feeling to the audience. The soundtrack, on the other hand, with you, what do you think as a person who's more into music? What do you think it kind of delivers successfully?
Like I
Like,
said, the sense of just like dread that things are going off the rails somehow and this is not going to end well. Um but also too it kind of like I also feel like at the same time it's not super oppressive.
mhm.
Like it does ebb and flow with the film. So there's moments of levity as well as more serious moments of the music. So it's well composed in that regard. It's not just like a one note kind of soundtrack, but like there's just this very strong sense of uh of unease that the music gives the all of the film. It like coats all of the film in this sort of s-
Malaise.
discontent.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think especially I think back to certain scenes, especially with him interrogating the brother. That scene and the kind of the music you hear in the background, but you're not really paying attention, but it does deliver that again, things aren't gonna end well. And you're on this train, so choo choo, mother effer, and let's keep going. So and also the scene of that next morning when he wakes up and it's the old man talking to him. And it's like, oh, which actually, no, I don't think there's any music in that one scene, but it's, but I'll tell you what, in the scene with, I have abandoned my child, like that whole scene, especially like that. And by the way, I forgot to mention this. I'll cap it off the music by just saying that it delivers on what was trying to be conveyed. But let me tell you something about Paul Dano. What a handsy guy. Man, that guy he loves to put his hands all over people. I mean, you got Mr. Plainsfield just putting his hands all over his boy, which, whatever. It's kind of creepy, but kind of whatever. But then, like, you can see it as not being creepy. he's dad, whatever. But like, man, there's a lot of hands in this movie. There's a lot of touching everything. It's like, whoa, stop. He's like at one moment, I'm like, he's trying to heal this woman, Paul Dano's character. Like, I'm gonna heal your sister. And it's like, oh my God, get your hands off this old lady. God, just like, get away from him. Ugh, get away from her. But yeah, that's just another aspect of how great Paul Dano is in this. All right, let's jump into the trivia, David. And I'm kind of scared because you came to me and I said, hey, can you get the trivia together for this film? And you said yes. So I thank you for that, by the way. But then I got home and you said, hey, you're going to read it still, right? And I was like, well, yeah, if you want me to. And he's like, no, I want you to. So, okay, again, context is IMDb trivia. Same things I said before. But here we go. I'm kind of worried. So here we go, David. All right, here's the trivia.
Fun.
Whatever you say. All right, number one. While on location, wait a second. While on location in Marfa, Texas, No Country for Old Men was the neighboring film production. One day, Paul Thomas Anderson and his crew tested the pyrotechnical effects of the oil derrick fire, causing an enormous billowing of smoke, intruding on the shot that Joel and Ethan Coen. This is the same thing I read from the other film.
Oh yeah, okay.
Okay, yeah. They had to take a break from filming for the day, and the next day the smoke dissipated, and they were able to resume filming on No Country for Old Men.
I didn't read through all of the. I only glanced at the trivia that was on there.
Oh no!
So I wasn't thinking about that.
The grammar.
I wasn't thinking about that.
That aspect.
That would probably have been in yours already.
Oh, okay.
So.
Well. All right, well, let's keep going. All right, the second one. Dylan Frazier, who plays H.W. Plainview, the son of the character played by Sir Daniel Day-Lewis, was not an actor. He was an elementary student near the film's West Texas shooting location. Interesting. On the radio program Fresh Air with Terry Gross, Paul Thomas Anderson told Gross that when the production was trying to convince Dylan's mother to allow Dylan to be in the film, his mother wanted to figure out who Daniel Day-Lewis was, and she rented a copy of Kings of New York, oh no, in which Daniel Day-Lewis plays a murderous gang leader nicknamed The Butcher. She panicked at the idea of her son spending time with the man she saw in that movie. So the There Will Be Blood casting department rushed her a copy of The Age of Innocence, in which Daniel Day-Lewis plays a civilized and gentleman. That's awesome. Oh man, it's stuff like that. It's too weird not to believe, like, you cannot believe it. Like, it's just too strange. It's stranger than fiction, we'll say. All right, continuing on. In an interview on the National Public Radio program, Fresh Air with Terry Gross, Paul Dano told Gross that he had originally been cast in a much smaller role of Paul Sunday, Eli's brother, and another actor had been cast as Eli. However, after Dano had already started filming his one scene as Paul Sunday, Paul Thomas Anderson decided to replace the actor playing Eli. Anderson then asked Dano to play Eli Sunday, a much bigger role, as well as Paul, and they decided to, Paul Sunday that is, and they decided to change the film to make the brothers identical twins. Monday, let's see, where am I? Anderson asked Dano to play Eli on a Thursday. The filming for the role began 4 days later on the next Monday. Daniel Day-Lewis, by contrast, had a whole year to prepare to play Daniel Plainview. Dang, that's crazy. He had 4 days to get in character for Eli Sunday.
Nailed it.
Dude, that's even more impressive now. All right, next one. Paul Thomas Anderson told Entertainment Weekly magazine. I don't know why I'm laughing. I'm just expecting something to pop in here, like so-and-so dies in this one movie. Like, wait, what? Why are we talking about the Wrath of Khan in this trivia of There Will Be Blood? Anyway, continuing on. Paul Thomas Anderson told Entertainment Weekly magazine that the fake oil used throughout the movie included the stuff they put in chocolate milkshakes at McDonald's. Okay. All right, next one. The infamous "I drink your milkshake" is in part a real quote. Paul Thomas Anderson found the metaphor in congressive transcripts from the 1920s.
Congressional.
Okay, it said congressive, so.
Congressive?
Yeah, it says congressives.
I just copy and pasted.
Yeah, stupid ass IMDb. You guys up there, they need to fix their grammar. Congressional transcripts from the 1920s Teapot Dome scandal. in which a Secretary of the Interior, Albert Fall, was convicted of accepting bribes for oil drilling rights to various lands. According to Anderson, in quotes, let's see, where am I? I think it was Albert Fall who was asked to describe drainage before Congress, and his way of describing it was, if you have a milkshake, I have a milkshake, and my straw reaches across the room, I'm sure I embellished it and changed it around and made it more plain view. But Fall used the word milkshake, and I thought it was so great. It was it was mad to see that word among all this official testimony and terminology. An effing milkshake. I get so happy every time I hear the word. God bless Paul Thomas Anderson. I'm glad he got his Oscar finally. Okie dokie. Number 6. Although the script was based on the Upton Sinclair novel Oil, with an exclamation point, Paul Thomas Anderson used only the first 150 pages for a big portion of the material. The rest was contrived. The novel setting was in 1920s, but it was moved to the beginning of the oil boom in California. All right, the next one. The film was rejected by the New York Film Festival. Paul Thomas Anderson said, in quotes, I called. How do you like the film? And this guy goes, is it finished? Is this it? I was so confused and heartbroken. End quote. Dang, what a cold-hearted man. Well, I mean, it takes place in California, so the New York Film Festival, of course, we're going to reject it. Let's be real. All right, and the next one. Russell Harvard, who played the deaf adult H.W. Plainview at the end of the film, is actually deaf. All right.
Representation.
Representation matters, guys. According to a 2007 interview with Paul Dano on the NPR show Terry Gross, the scene where Plainview is baptized by Eli, where Eli slaps the living shit out of him several times, was shot the day after the scene in which Plainview threatens to bury Eli and slaps them around. That's awesome. That is so good. Again, Paul Thomas Anderson. I was unfamiliar with your work because that was 100% that guy's call. All right, next one. Excuse me, it's been Sir Daniel Day-Lewis this whole time. Sir Daniel Day-Lewis based his voice for and characterization of Daniel Plainview and on old recordings of the director, writer, and actor John Huston. Dude, that's awesome. And our article by Christopher Goodwin in the Sunday Times of London revealed PTA sent Day-Lewis documentaries about Huston while Day-Lewis was preparing to play the role. That's cool. The last one, David. Deleted scenes from the screenplay reveal that Daniel is important. What?
Impotent.
Impotent. Sorry. Man, I'm blind even with my glasses. He tells Henry, oh God, in quotes. I didn't read it. It shouldn't be that funny. I haven't even read it. Oh man. Mike. Oh. My cock doesn't work. End quote. And later, when the two are consorting with prostitutes, Daniel performs oral on a woman and then leaves. This is what Eli is referring to in the baptism scene when he claims that Daniel has lusted after women. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Oh man. Oh, damn, you got me good there. Thank you for putting that in the end. That was great. Okay, so yeah, in the screenplay, Daniel Plainview said, "My cock don't work," and then does oral on a woman. Whoa, whoopee! Oh my God, I was not expecting that, David. Thank you. Because I didn't read ahead. I started reading it, and then when I got to the point, I was like, "Whoa." Okay. Any last words on one of the greatest films of all time, David? There Will Be Blood.
What a picture.
What a picture. And I think there's nothing else to say besides that. Oh, David, don't forget to say this.
Oh, yeah. I won't.
Yeah, don't forget. All right.
I won't.
My last words on this escapade we've been on is I'm very happy I've watched these. I believe, there's that book out there that says 1,001 films. Sorry, Dave, I'm seeing the tear ducts on your eyes like highlight by the light. You probably see my tears too. Okay, these are definitely films you need to watch before you die. If you don't want to rewatch them, that's fine. There's several films I've seen that I don't want to go back to. But I think No Country for Old Men is definitely one I'm going to rewatch at some point and rewatch with people because it's that good. And I think somewhat to a lesser extent with this one, just because There Will Be Blood, I think is a much, like you said earlier, David, you have to be in the right mood for it, right kind of mindset for it. And I think it's a really good picture. Amazing acting, amazing scripts, amazing direction. They all did great. I would love to go see the Academy Awards video for that, the Academy Awards presentation that year.
Oh, yeah.
To see what it was like. Because I was alive during this, but I wasn't paying attention to the Academy Award in 2007. But
You were like 10 years old?
exactly. I was 10 years old. So, but yeah, man, I really want to go back and rewatch Lincoln to see how Spielberg handled Daniel Day-Lewis in that. So, and I got to see Gangs of New York because you and me have been wanting to watch it anyway. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll bid you adieu. And remember, if something doesn't work, just keep drilling for that oil. And remember, if you're down in that tube and you look up and something's falling ever so far, remember to count your prayers and bless your face and snarfangle on.
I'm finished.